Ladies and gentlemen, beautiful people, welcome to the 97 Republic YouTube channel, where I react to news and live events pertaining to different sports. So I kindly ask that you hit the like button and the subscribe button, as that would really help this channel grow. And to ensure that you don't skip a beat, click the notification bell as well. That way you can guarantee that you don't miss any of the action. Alright, so let's go. A recap of Matchday 23 of the Premier League starting right now, so let's go. So we started off Matchday 23 on Saturday. We had multiple kickoffs at the same time. But I'm going to start with Brighton hosting Everton at the Anfield. And going into the game, I said that Everton feels like a team of threes, right? 3 out of 10. They drew 3 consecutive games, went on to lose 3 consecutive games. And I said, potentially we could be looking at them winning 3 consecutive games after beating Tottenham and now beating Brighton. It feels likely. If you're a Toffees fan, new lease on life, right? Something to be optimistic about, and you can see it. You can see the players, playing with more enthusiasm, being optimistic. You can see they are fully bought in to David Moyes' philosophy. And if ever you needed someone to get Everton back on track, who better to a point than David Moyes? Honestly, a Premier League legend. Not with regards to how many titles he's won, but just being a solid manager and being able to establish his team, whoever he coaches, as being fundamentally a really good team. I initially predicted the game finishing 1-1. I thought Brighton would score. I thought Everton would score, seeing that Brighton's defense is really susceptible, and just Brighton's attack being really prolific in the last 15 games, I thought they'd be able to score. But seeing David Moyes, seeing how he sorts out the defense, how his defensive philosophy has players playing really tight, having everything in front of them, and basically just nullified whatever Brighton's attack had to offer. A brilliant victory for Everton. Then moving on, we saw Southampton hosting Newcastle United at St Mary's. Now I predicted Newcastle winning 3-1. And the reason for it, obviously, seeing that Southampton has been, a team lacking in confidence. And even though Newcastle lost to Bournemouth, before that they were on a 9-game winning streak in all competitions, right? And Newcastle tying a record in the club's history for most consecutive games won. And you could see Southampton being a team that lacks confidence, right? Almost playing against themselves. Where they go, they score the opener of the game. Jan Bednarek scores a header, Southampton leads 1-0. And the same applied with the Man United game, right? Lacking confidence, not being able to see out games and just take a firm grip of the game, right? Being able to actually have momentum and doing something sustainable with it. And we saw Southampton collapsing once again, where it felt like they were in the game, obviously leading 1-0. It felt like they had somewhat control over the game, and then conceded a penalty. Isak scoring, and basically he's been scoring in 9 of his last 10 games, and then you see Southampton fall apart completely, where their defense looks like it could implode at any given time. And we saw that come to fruition, where it just felt like Newcastle could have scored double the amount that they've scored. And just to rub salt in Southampton's wounds, the goal being disallowed because of the guy being offside, you have to feel for them. You have to feel for Southampton. But you can just see that they're lacking confidence. They don't know how to take control of a game. Don't know how to assert themselves when the time is needed to ensure that they either diet down or raise the intensity. And felt like the result that was inevitable. And then moving on, we saw Bournemouth hosting Nottingham Forest at the Vitality Stadium. And going into this game, Bournemouth being on a 10-game unbeaten streak versus Nottingham Forest being on an 8th game unbeaten streak, and Nottingham Forest obviously being 3rd on the table. And my initial prediction was I thought Nottingham Forest would win either 2-1 or 2-0. Right? Seeing that Nottingham Forest has only lost 2 games away from home, what an incredible display by Bournemouth. Seeing Justin Kluivert open the score. Now, with all due respect to Nottingham Forest, how could you not close him down after seeing his goal against Newcastle the previous week? But honestly, it felt like even if Kluivert didn't score, it felt like Bournemouth was winning this game. And Owatara scoring a hat-trick, basically doubling the amount of goals he scored this season in one game. But Bournemouth is an absolute buzzsaw at the moment. Right? They increased their unbeaten streak to 11 games. Nottingham Forest lost 5-0 at the Vitality. Would not want to see Bournemouth. If my team had to play Bournemouth, wouldn't feel easy and comfortable at all watching that game, knowing that we might win 2-1 or we might get blasted 5-0. A scary proposition, this Bournemouth side and what they have become, and just how clinical they're in front of goal. It's incredible. Honestly, if you predicted Bournemouth winning 5-0, you're a liar. You are a liar. And then moving on to 2 games that had massive implications regarding the top of the Premier League table, where Liverpool hosted Ipswich at Anfield, and Arsenal went on to go and play Wolves at Molineux. Now, I predicted Liverpool winning 2-0. Reason being is seeing that Ipswich got slapped by Manchester City at home, losing 6-0, I thought coming to Anfield, they'd be much more stubborn in defense, right? Basically, putting the onus on Liverpool to unlock Ipswich's defense, Liverpool forcing it in the first half, and then in the second half going on to win and scoring 2 goals. Now, it was safe to assume that Liverpool would beat Ipswich, right? Putting the onus on Arsenal to try and win at Wolves to ensure that they close the gap on Liverpool, right? And ensure that Liverpool isn't busy creating a big gap at the top of the Premier League, right? So at the time, at halftime, Liverpool went up 3-0. Like Cody Gakpo scored, and Liverpool went up 3-0. And at Molineux, the score was still 0-0. And Arsenal had a red card, where Lewis Skelly basically got handed a red card by guess who? Michael Oliver. Now, before I go into the respective games, if Arsenal fans decided that they want to make a case against Michael Oliver having a dog in the race with regards to the Premier League and being biased in his officiating, they would have a compelling case. Now, I saw a stat where Michael Oliver, in 50 games officiating Manchester City, has not given Manchester City 1 red card. And he gave Lewis Skelly a red card for something that is blatantly a yellow card. Right? You could not in any way justify that being a red card. Seeing that, sure, Wolves were on the attack, it was a counter attack, but he wasn't the last offender, right? And he basically just tripped him, right? Wasn't anything dangerous. He got handed a red card. And at the time, Arsenal felt like they had the grip on the game. Felt like they basically dominated the game in terms of the fluidity of it, how it was going to play out. And obviously the red card somewhat handicapped them in that regard, right? So Liverpool was up 3-0 at halftime. And Arsenal at Wolves, the game was 0-0. And if it stayed that way, Liverpool would have been 8 points ahead of Arsenal at the top of the Premier League with a game in hand, right? So it was imperative that Arsenal get a result at Wolves, get a victory at Molineux. And then obviously, being a Wolves fan, would have been devastating seeing Joe Gomez get a red card as well for a sin, an absolute sin tackle, right? already on a yellow. And then going in late, studs up, it was definitely a red card. And then seeing Calafiori score 5 minutes later would have been probably throwing my TV out the window. And I saw a comment that was actually quite good. I saw a comment regarding Calafiori when he scored. He wanted to take off his shirt and celebrate. But then, remembering that Michael Oliver is the referee and might give him a straight red for that offence, decide won't touch, would not touch the shirt. So, Liverpool beating Ipswich 4-1 at Anfield, and Arsenal managing to win at Molineux 1-0, basically ensuring that they apply pressure to Liverpool at the top, with Liverpool only leading by 6 points at the moment. But there is something lurking. Two places behind Arsenal, and that involves the next game, when Manchester City hosted Chelsea at the Etihad. Obviously, the game of the day, where Pep City took on Maresca's Chelsea at the Etihad. And if you didn't watch the game, it felt like the game was emphasized by two massive turning points. Now, Chelsea opened the scoring probably as early as you could wish for, if you're a Chelsea fan, where Kusanov, the newly acquired Manchester City defender, blundered. Chelsea capitalized on Madueke's goals. And then City went on to do what they usually do: assert dominance, take a hold of the game, create chances, and City probably could have scored a few goals of their own. But there was a moment in the game where Chelsea could have doubled their lead, where Cole Palmer was through on goal, not in the center of the field, but basically on the right-hand side of the pitch, and crossed it to Nicholas Jackson. And instead of hitting it first time, Jackson decided he was going to take a few touches and relay it to the middle of the penalty box, and that shot got blocked. Now, if Chelsea had to score there, which it is fair to say they should have, right? I don't think Manchester City would win this game, due to the fact that whenever you play the way City play, you dominate the game, you create a lot of chances, and you end up not scoring. And not only that, you end up conceding. You have to start all over again, which can be incredibly demoralizing. And seeing that in a game of this magnitude, the amount of pressure you would put on yourself by conceding and having to score a lot of goals might leave you vulnerable for counterattack. But instead, didn't play out like that. City equalized, and the game was 1-1. And then the second turning point, probably roughly around the 70th minute, Erling Haaland was through on goal, basically in the same way that Cole Palmer was in the first half. But this time, Chelsea's keeper Sanchez decided that he might want to challenge Haaland and thought that he might get to the ball before Haaland did, only realizing halfway through his journey was not going to happen. And Haaland wasn't free on goal, seeing that he was marked and a Chelsea defender was running with him at the time. So instead of backpedaling, which Sanchez probably should have done, he did. Just stood completely still. Haaland basically chopped it on his left foot and dinked it. And Manchester City went on to go ahead 2-1. And it felt like the game was over. And then obviously rubbing salt into Chelsea's wounds, Foden scores and makes it 3-1. But it felt like in dominating the game the way Manchester City usually do, right? Just because you dominate doesn't mean you probably win the game. Seeing as football, the only stat that really matters is the goals scored stat. And you can dominate a game as much as you possibly want. You can create as many chances as you'd like. If you don't finish them, you won't win. As obvious as it could be, right? But giving Haaland, of all players, that opportunity, right, making it much more easier than it should, and giving him the opportunity to dink Sanchez, it put an exclamation mark on that game, where you basically knew it was over. It didn't feel like Chelsea was going to be able to score 2 goals. But had it stayed 1-1, Haaland not being able to finish that opportunity, Sanchez not making a massive mistake, anything could happen. You could be susceptible to the counter-attack. You could even concede a random corner, and then Chelsea might end up scoring from a corner. You never know. Just because you assert dominance doesn't mean that you are going to win the game, right? It's not like other sport. And yeah, basically a game highlighted by Chelsea not being able to capitalize on their opportunity when in the moment they could have, and a massive mistake from the goalkeeper. And then we moved on to Sunday's fixtures, where Tottenham Hotspur hosted Leicester at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. A game I don't think I needed as much as I did. Seeing Tottenham play Leicester, both teams in a horrendous form, right? Where Leicester has lost 7 on this one, and Tottenham has lost 5 of their last 6, right? Seeing a team potential winning this game was incredible, right? Seeing both teams in previous matches not taking yes for an answer and trying to lose the game, seeing both teams play one another, we knew we were in for a treat, right? Now, Tottenham opened the score, right? And they dominated the game up until that point, even up until halftime. Where Richarlison opened the scoring, Tottenham leads 1-1. And as soon as Richarlison scored, you knew you could start your stopwatch, because it was inevitable that Leicester would equalise. You probably the safest bet you could ever make in your whole life. Then Jamie Vardy equalises, and then Bilal scores the second goal, and Leicester go on to win the game. Right? Leicester basically putting an end to their 7-game losing streak, and the woes continue for Tottenham Hotspur. And yeah, as advertised, Tottenham scoring first. They've done it a lot this season, and this is the 5th time they've lost when scoring first. Just in pure Tottenham way. Then we moved on to Crystal Palace hosting Brentford at Selhurst Park, where Crystal Palace was on a 5-game unbeaten streak, and Brentford has only managed to win 2 of their last 9 games. So my initial prediction was I thought Palace would win 2-1, seeing that Palace has been defensively sound for the duration of this unbeaten streak, and Brentford was susceptible to conceding goals. Even though I got the score right, didn't get the result right. A lot of opportunities created by both teams, and Brentford got awarded a penalty round about the 60th minute, and much deservingly so. It was a definite penalty. But then what followed was a major talking point. Seeing that when Wemo took the penalty, right, hit the post, ricocheted back to him, and he missed the follow-up shot. Only for VAR to interrupt and basically call a halt to it, telling the match official that the penalty should be retaken, and rightfully so as well. And then Wemo scored, and then Kevin Shade scored. Crystal Palace scored one back, got one back with SA, making it 2-1, but then just not being able to really press and get a result out of the game. Where Brentford's attack has been really incredible. Like even seeing Wessa being really good, seeing Wemo just racking up goals. Brentford's attack might be something to study, and how prolific their attack has been this season with the amount of players they have. Seeing that they're not a stacked squad, just incredible performance by Brentford. Going to Selhurst Park, playing a stubborn, very stubborn Crystal Palace defense, and being able to go away and go home with a win. Great result for Brentford. Then we went to Villa Park, where Aston Villa hosted West Ham. And initially I thought, easiest pick of the weekend. Right? Aston Villa being really good at home, only losing 2 games the whole season at home, with West Ham not being as good away from home. Seeing that West Ham has lost 10 games this season, Villa has won 10 games this season. Villa's on a really good streak as well. West Ham being somewhat up and down with regards to their form, taking 1 step forward, 2 steps back, not being able to find any consistency, and Villa opens the score. And I'm thinking to myself, predicted this. I predicted Villa winning 2-0. And Villa dominated the game, created more chances, but wasn't taking, or rather capitalizing on their chances. And it felt like, for some weird reason, it felt like they should have. Because, as previously mentioned, in football anything can happen. and they didn't take all of the chances they created. West Ham then went on, equalised, and it felt like West Ham was actually the team pressing for a victory. And all in all, 1-1 result, a really good game. Really enjoyed it. We saw Unai Emery not being sidelined because of his yellow card and his suspension he got the previous weekend. Sitting up in the stands, maybe would have had an impact if Unai was on the sideline. You never know. But I felt like, and it felt like, Villa thought and should have won the game. But they basically got done to them what they did to Arsenal the previous weekend, where Arsenal dominated the game. And Villa scored a goal, and immediately it was in the balance. The exact same happened this time against them. And then we moved on to the final game of the weekend, where Fulham hosted Manchester United at Craven Cottage. Previously mentioning inconsistencies, it feels like United's whole season has been built on the foundation of being inconsistent, where you never know what to expect, and you never know how the team will show up and what they would look like. Seeing that they lost to Newcastle, then went on to draw against Liverpool, then went on to beat Southampton, then lost to Brighton at Old Trafford. And going into this game, you didn't know what to expect. And it kind of started in the way that you probably would expect, where Fulham pushed the pace. Fulham dominated the game in the first half, and the majority of the game was played in Manchester United's half of the field, right? But even with that being said, defensively, United looked good. It didn't feel like they were in jeopardy of really conceding a goal. It felt like controlled chaos, where most of the game with regards to defense was played in front of them. Not a lot of guys running in behind the defense, not being able to defend or having to defend facing your own goal. It felt like it was somewhat controlled by United. And seeing them then score a goal, taking the lead, and finishing off the game, it is a big statement. Because we've seen United score first, have the lead, and not being able to finish off the game. And that has to do a lot with confidence. Being able to see a team now, being able to hold on to, even if it's a 1-0 lead, right? You really have to have a lot of faith in your defense. And with regards to players like Bruno, being able to kill off the game, being able to dictate the pace of it. Honestly, if you are a United fan, you could not be disappointed with how things played out. Taking a 1-0 win at Craven Cottage against a Fulham side that has been somewhat good and has been on a good run of form, could not be happier if you were a United fan. And that basically wraps up Matchday 23 of the Premier League. Let me know in the comment section below which game you enjoyed the most and what result shocked you the most.